achievable steps toward a big impact for our planet. So today, as our guest, we'll be welcoming Lakey Peterson. So, Lakey Peterson, she's a surf legend. She's one of the world's leading female surfers, known for her progressive aerial maneuvers. And she's an athletic. She has athletic force and rise through the ranks at a very young age. With her first competition that she won was at the age of 12. So she'll be able to tell us a little bit more about this in a minute. So letting Lakey get in at the moment. So she's now in Australia, not in Santa Barbara, but yeah, I guess she's all set to join us at the moment. Hello, Lakey. How are you doing?
Hello. How's it going?
Doing well, doing well. So you're in Australia, right?
I am, yes. My husband's from here, so we've been sort of just staying here for the past few months. It's been really, really nice. Are you in my hometown at the moment?
Exactly. I'm in Santa Barbara, so
Beautiful place, isn't it?
yeah, it's amazing. It's really good. I mean, it's summertime, so not a lot of surf, but still the town is just a bliss. So yeah, it's been great, and I believe there's good surf right now in Australia.
There has been. It's the winter down here, so it's kind of their best time of year. For the area I'm staying is Bells Beach, where we actually have one of our competitions every year. So it's been really nice because I've been able to surf that wave a lot and practice a ton. And this is sort of the best time of year for waves down this way. So yeah, it's been really awesome, and I'm so excited to finally get to connect with you and talk to you about everything. It's just such a cool opportunity. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I guess today, I mean, most of the topic it's refill for good, and basically talking a little bit about plastic pollution in the world's ocean. And you're a world traveler, so you've been all over the place. And yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about how do you feel about this plastic pollution issue, and maybe a little bit of your experience from, I don't know, Asia to Australia to the west coast of the US. How have you been witnessing all of this pollution all over the world?
Yeah, for sure. I think I feel really fortunate that I've been able to travel so much for surfing and just through my life to really see what's going on with just plastic pollution, and how different cultures and different countries, how all of their different systems work for trash and recycling and plastics and all of that. And so I feel like for me personally, it's been a really amazing way to educate myself on what's actually going on, because when you see something firsthand, it really, at least for me personally, resonates more. And so plastic, when I go to a place like Indonesia, they seem to have a really bad problem over there with it. And from my understanding, it's more their system. I'm not sure if they have the best recycling system, and obviously there's a lot of single-use plastics being used over there. So somewhere when I go there and I really see it firsthand when I'm surfing, on the beach, there's just so much trash on the beaches there, and in the water. And I've been sick a lot after surfing over there. And so when you experience stuff firsthand like that, I feel like it's more like, whoa, it doesn't feel so invisible. Sometimes if I'm surfing somewhere like Hawaii or something like that, that feels very clean and maybe doesn't have as much trash, I feel like you don't really see the issue. So yeah, it's definitely something that I feel honored to be part of the Hydro Flask family in that regard, and feel like I'm doing something positive and being part of the positive change. But I guess I had a couple questions for you, if that's okay, just about plastics and particularly microplastics, because I feel like everyone knows that plastic is at this point bad, and we should try and reduce how much we're using it and avoid it where we can. But I think a lot of people I speak to, and even for myself, just learning more about microplastics and what actually happens to plastic over time, and microplastics being all in our oceans. Is it in our air that we breathe? Like, is it everywhere? Where is it exactly? And what is microplastics exactly, if you could explain maybe?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I guess I've been working with different types of plastic. So I lived in Hawaii for 4 years, and in Hawaii, you see it when you go to the beach. You see there's a lot of plastic out there. But the plastic in Hawaii is about 95% coming from outside of the island. So over there,
Wow.
you get a lot of plastic that's been traveling from Asia, and then it got stuck in the North Pacific garbage patch. It can remain there for many, many years. And most of the time, the plastic that will reach the North Pacific garbage patch, and after that, Hawaii, because whenever you have a storm, you get a lot of high wind, for example, and then the patch will spit out these plastic and they will
Right.
travel to the northeast Hawaiian beaches. So we find a lot of this plastic in Hawaii, for example. And as a result of being in the water for years and decades, the plastic, with the help of UV light, UV radiation, will degrade. So, let's say a big bottle of shampoo that is like HDPE, so high density polyethylene, it's quite thick. It's different than single use plastic from a plastic bag, for example. So, the sun will hit the plastic, and then the plastic will start like fragmenting.
Right.
First, it doesn't fragment, but you can see that it becomes brittle, and then you can see microfractures and cracks, and eventually it will break down into smaller and smaller pieces. So
Right.
these are microplastics. So everything below 5 millimeters is considered microplastic. Microplastic can either comes from like a bigger object, so from second origin, like a bottle, or it can be a nurdles or a plastic pellet, so the pre-production plastic pellets that the industry will use to make plastic items. So they are of two different origins. And of
Okay.
course, I discuss a lot about Hawaii. And Hawaii, we find a lot of this microplastic. But then when you were saying that in Asia, you go surfing, you feel sick because most likely of the quality of the water and plastic waste management issue and issue in general with waste. In Asia, for example, you see a lot of single-use plastic coming from the local population.
Right.
So because of issues with dumping plastic out there. So this is a little
Right.
different than Hawaii. So the microplastic will be different coming from probably most likely different objects compared to Hawaii. So in Hawaii, the plastic we have there is more resistant compared to a plastic bag that will break down into smaller pieces. But you're completely
Okay.
right. We are
Yeah, that
exposed
makes a
to
lot
it.
of sense. That makes a lot of sense because, like in Hawaii, like I was saying, I don't see plastic. Or the beaches are so clean and pristine, and you're not seeing like when I'm in Bali or something, and there's just a plastic bag on the beach. So it's much different. But it's interesting that the problem is still very much the same everywhere globally, whether you're seeing it firsthand and it looks really dirty and a lot of trash, or it looks so clean and pristine, but actually there's a lot of microplastics, unfortunately,
Yeah,
in the water and in the sand. Oh, that's
and you
really
don't
interesting.
see it. You don't see it
Right.
sometimes. And I mean, plastic is okay. If you're in Bali and you see these plastic bags, they've been recently dumped on at the beach or discarded, so you see them. But in Hawaii, we see the plastic, the microplastic, but we know that it's degrading into smaller and smaller pieces that will not be visible to naked eyes. And now I work on microfibers, and microfibers is another issue. It's basically 62% of our clothes nowadays are made out of plastic, and then the fibers that are from our clothes will get shedded with time when we wear them and when we wash them. So this is another source of microplastic pollution. So that's something to keep in mind whenever we buy clothes. It's always good to go like with natural clothing because eventually our
Right.
clothes will end up in the ocean. So
Right. So it's kind of just learning to be aware with, because I feel like in the past maybe 5 years, things like our Hydro Flask or using, taking your own reusable bag to, yeah, to the grocery store, things like that, I feel like have become a lot more obvious to the general public. Like all of us, I don't leave my house without my Hydro Flask and, my bag if I need to go to the grocery store. But are there other ways, because I feel like with plastic in my own personal life, there's areas where I feel like, gosh, it's just really hard to avoid having plastic some, like, it's really hard to be completely plastic free, unfortunately, because unfortunately it is a product that is so usable for brands and packaging and all that sort of stuff. So outside of just my water bottle and, you know, my bags and just the obvious steps, are there other things that you would recommend, like the clothing? That was really interesting. Yeah, that are ways that we can all start to do even more in helping reduce our plastic use. Maybe when we go to the store, you know, a lot of times with fruits and vegetables, you'll put that in a plastic baggie. Is there maybe some other alternatives that you could share that we could?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
an excellent point actually, because yeah, it's not all plastic that is bad. But I'm against single-use plastic because it's so easy to replace these items. So instead of
Yes.
using a plastic water bottle, see, it's so easy. You get this awesome Hydro Flask. It lasts for
Yeah.
decades. I mean, you can carry them everywhere. I mean, they will be like your best friend basically. And as you said, I do the same. I carry this every day, and if I forget it, I come back home to get it just because
Yes.
I need water. So I mean, these are very easy to replace, and then reusable bags and straws. And I even go to the restaurant with my containers. So I think the very first step for me, it's to really help like the law and policy makers banning single-use plastic, because it's easy for consumers to basically change their lifestyle and then go with reusable. So I think this is really the first step, and it's easy, just an habit. You step out of your house, you put everything that is reusable in your bag that you may need during the day, and I mean it's like your wallet and your keys, so that's
Yeah.
easy. Then clothing is a bit of another issue, and of course we have to be realist with the fact that okay, even like for surfing equipment, I mean a lot of it is made out of plastic. So we
Yeah.
really need to be aware of what we consume. And I think the very first step, because the natural technology is not quite there yet, like we see that there are different campaigns for using recyclable material for surfboards, for example. Um,
Right.
they are pretty good, and I think they are good for competing level. But at the same time, the price is not as competitive at the moment. So
Right.
I think we need better technologies at the moment to create more sustainable items. We need to use natural materials so nature can cope with it if ever these materials they get discarded in the environment. And we just need to be really aware of what we consume. So I feel like as consumer, we consume so much, and most of the time we don't really need to go shopping. In average, a person in the US will go shopping twice a week, and will end up buying one piece of garment per week. So this is a lot, and
Right.
I don't think like we need that much clothing. So if we reduce our clothing, for example, if we want to make a significant change for climate change and consumption, we would buy only 3 pieces of garment a year. This is very little. But then if we can only buy three, might as well buy something good, something that you'll be able to mix and match with other clothes, and something natural. So we know that we don't contribute to this plastic pollution on a long-term basis. So I guess the
Yeah. It's kind of sounds like it goes back to the same theory of just quality over quantity with everything. It's like if you're gonna buy like a good water bottle, buy like a great Hydro Flask. Or if you're gonna buy, you know, bags, buy good quality bags. And same with clothing. It's like what you just said. Maybe, you know, if you're gonna only buy 3 items, then make them really good, high quality items that you know are good for you and good for the earth and gonna last and be more sustainable overall. So I feel like it's really overall just reminding ourselves of just that it can be simple, but it's worth getting the more quality product. It's the same with eating, you know, eating organic and fresh and local. It's, in my mind, I would much rather buy that and instead of, you know, stuff that's more processed, because I know it's going to feed my body better. And so we have to maybe think of that more with how we're treating the earth and buying products that, you know, are going to be good for it. So no, that's really cool. That's awesome. I always feel like it's nice to just hear from people like you and learn, every opportunity I get, because I feel like myself and a lot of my friends and people I speak to, it's just a lack of knowledge a lot, unfortunately. We are now starting to learn about all these issues, but a lot of people, and myself included, just don't know exactly what to look out for, or exactly, you know, what products are bad or good. Or so I think just for all of us, being more open to having conversations, or just hopping on the internet and learning or Googling it is really cool, that we actually have that opportunity to learn and grow. And that's really where we can maybe start to make a change, because the more I learn about it, the more I'm passionate about, you know, personally trying to make that change in my life.
So. Yeah, and the more you can share all of your knowledge then with all of your fans and people listening to you, I mean, that's the power you have. It's like you're trying your best to be sustainable, and at the same time, you have access to a huge audience. So I really appreciate when I see like people like you and champion surfers champion like talking to the people out there and just have an impact on them, because I can talk to people but I will never reach as big of an audience as you can. So this is really something precious. And yeah, I'm glad you're using this power you have and for such a good cause, and also helping funding like different organization with hands for others. And this is wonderful. I think this is a really good way of using like your strength.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's all learning and trial and error. Like, I'm certainly not perfect, and you know, but I'm learning, and I think we're all, that's the journey we're all on, is teaching ourselves and educating ourselves, and you know, as we go, just learning right from wrong and trying to do our best. So I certainly am trying to do that, and I definitely have hope that a lot of other people in the world are too. And it's just encouraging to have these conversations and feeling like you're not alone, because sometimes it feels like, oh, what's the difference I'm going to make? I'm only one person. But if we all have that same mentality, that if we all make the difference, then that's a big impact, you know. So I
Yeah,
think
and if we share,
it's just,
educate, bring awareness, this is like just sharing with as many people as we can. So then it gets in their mind, and then they can finally change their habits, which is something hard to ask consumers. Like, just go
yeah.
shopping 3 times a year. I mean, this is big, but eventually we'll have to go there,
I'm
otherwise we'll be
I'm
stuck with.
definitely guilty of that one. I have more than 3 pieces of gear, so I'll work
For
on
sure.
reducing my clothing load for sure.
We all
But
do. We all do.
yeah.
And I guess I have one last question for you. What is your favorite refill for good and your favorite way of being sustainable, just for the audience to keep that in mind?
Yeah. Gosh, you know, there's, I guess, a few things that come to mind, but the whole premise around the refill for the good, and I guess what my refill for the good would be, um, I guess it would just be on my own personal journey of trying to, every place I go on our tour, leaving some form of positive impact about just being being good to our planet and good to our earth, and doing the work where I can personally each place I go. Like, I feel like every tour stop I see one little girl or more that I can impact in a positive way and do good. And so I guess my own personal refill for the good is just planting those little seeds in each, just if it's one person each place I go, that's good enough for me. So I think for me personally, that is my refill for the good. But it's awesome that Hydro Flask is doing that, and there's obviously so many organizations that are doing incredible things and incredible work, which is just encouraging in this day and age as well. So
Nice, beautiful.
yeah.
Yay. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank
That
you.
was
I really
great.
appreciate it. Enjoy your time in Santa Barbara as well. I wish I was there to show you around, but yeah,
Next
it's a
time.
beautiful
I'm not
place.
very far. I'm in San Diego, so we can meet, I'm sure.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
Have fun surfing. Take good
Okay.
care. Take good waves.
Thank you.
And take care. Have a
Bye.
good day. Bye.